Testing, testing, testing. Which is not optimal. Hello and welcome to Domain Expert. My name is Harry Moreno. It is Friday the 21st. I haven't streamed in a bit, so I'm a bit rusty. Please bear with me. It says the resolution is not optimal, but this looks fine. I guess that would be, yeah, so that's me. Current resolution is blah, which is not optimal. Well, I don't think that's a big deal. Good connection. Let's give it a shot. So it's 10:43. Let's say it's 11, 12, 1. Let's see if I can go to 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., which would be either a 2-hour stream or a 3-hour stream, depending on how I feel. But tentatively, let's say I'm gonna try to go till 2 a.m. If you have any questions, just drop them in the chat. I'll try to monitor it. I'll do my best to monitor it, but no promises there. I only have one screen. So what are we gonna do? Basically, I have this project where I need to basically, what's the project? We have this project here, which I'm trying to develop, and you can check it out if you want. The URL is this, getlit.app, and it's a React Native application with a Django backend. And I'm basically tech lead on this, meaning I have a team of people that are helping me, and some of them I pay. And basically, I have fallen behind on code reviews. I need to review a whole bunch of PRs, and that's what I'm going to live stream. I'm going to live stream my process while I review code. If it's not up to the level that I like, because this is such a small team that basically, yeah, this is such a small team. Instead of submitting changes requested as you would on like another team, I'm gonna go ahead and often I fix them myself. So if this was like, if I had people that were like working full-time, I would instead issue changes requested and they would work on that the next day. But in the interest of time, I am going to basically do changes requested and then fix them almost immediately. So you'll see all that. So what do we got? Basically, let's see. I'm just gonna go crank through them. I know that I have all these pull requests I need to review and merge, and I'm basically 10 days behind, so let's try to see if I can get through them. It's been a busy week. This is not my primary, this is more like a side project, so side project. I actually don't like that term. It's a passion project. I like passion project. Keeps me out of trouble, something to do on a Friday night. Let's see, so maybe I'll run the backend first. So I know, for example, that I merged this recently. We merged it recently, so I think I can go ahead and delete this. This has already been merged. I can activate the environment. So this is Django. I basically aliased PM, or rather Python manage.py. I've aliased that locally to PM just for brevity. And you'll see that I've done other aliases like G, so G is get. And if you want to know any more of the aliases I've made, just ask. I'll be happy to share them. They're also in my dot files, so if you look up my profile on GitHub, I have a dot files directory where I share a lot of these. But anywho, I think there might have been some migrations. Just want to make sure that we have that, and let's run the API. That's the API, it's running. Let's run the phone app. Right. So, phone app, we only really have a master branch. I've thought of ways of having a staging branch for the phone app, but nothing has really come to mind yet. Let's see. Infinite scroll. Right. We are trying to add infinite scroll to the events screen. That's what this PR would do. The thing is also, though, that it's about 10 days old and it has conflicts. So maybe let's try to resolve these conflicts in GitHub. Okay, luckily for us, there's only really one conflict section. And we see here that get events queries the API for relevant events, assumes location is already in Redux. Yes, I remember writing this recently. It used to have location, and I renamed that to LOC. And there's this hacky stuff here where basically I want to give precedence to the location being passed as an argument to this function. So if this function receives an argument, I'm gonna say that has precedence over the location and props. And so if there is no loc argument, let's use the one for props. If there is one, let's use the one from the argument. And maybe I could have inverted this. Could probably, so it's better, rather. It is better to perform assertions in the affirmative, because I say so. But I think many more experienced developers would agree as well. Basically in the affirmative. So if we have an argument to this function, let's go ahead and use that. Otherwise, let's try to pull location from props. And so that would essentially remove the need for this signature. And res events does... Okay, here, so I think the PR that was open introduces argument page number, because basically for the infinite scroll we need to keep track of pagination. The API is paginated. So we could probably keep this. We probably want that. This probably takes precedence over what was here previously. Right? Okay. And then res events. Right, so I think previously I was guarding for safety's sake, and I think that is better than doing this. Basically, if you get into a situation where res events is undefined, res events.results is fine. You'll just get undefined whatever. But if that's undefined and you try to reference length on that, then that seems to blow up at runtime. So, and it looks like we were setting state next URL. So this for pagination. So we need to also update the store. And I think that would consolidate both of these. I think that would do what we want. Okay. So no, I didn't want to merge that. Okay, so that only fixes the conflict. Okay, great. So okay. Event, infinite scroll, character limit. Okay. Alright, so we resolve conflicts in GitHub, and now we have it running locally. Well, we don't. We pulled it. Now I want to run it locally and check it out. Maybe, so it's 11. Alright, checking out at midnight. So this is the Metro bundler for React Native. Let's try to run this in the Android simulator. Okie dokie. So I'm loading the application. I started the Android emulator, and now I'm loading the React Native application in the emulator. Whenever we log, it should show up here. tunnel. Okay. I think this is because usually I use an ngrok tunnel. Right, so here we're not seeing any requests from the phone. From the emulator. These are requests from the browser that when I open the API in the browser. So let's run an ngrok tunnel. So here's a fresh ngrok tunnel. Let's go ahead and let's use this fresh tunnel and specify it as the API. Okay, great. And we can verify, we can confirm that the phone, the emulator hit the API here, and it went through the tunnel here. Testing, testing, testing. All right, yep, still running. So, okay, great. And then here's a phone app. It has infinite scroll on the chat, but it's kind of buggy. Right now, this PR is trying to add infinite scroll on the events. I think it's pretty buggy though. See? It's all weird. So, as has been the case with several of these PRs, they are buggy, and so I have to fix the bugs. So let's fix the bug. Add infinite scroll in events. Load more chat. Dimensions, page number, location. Location, why is this here? This is misspelled. Twice. This should change, I think. Page number. See, I'm not even sure if, because this is like a custom endpoint. It's not like your default REST framework endpoint. We've customized it to accept latitude and longitude. So I'm not 100% sure that the pagination works. I'm assuming that the pagination works. We should, and we will verify that that works. So invent list latitude, longitude. So let's see, for example, we know that it's something like this. This is 404. This is 200. Page 5. Page 6. 4/4s. Page 4. Okay, so at least we're getting 200s. I do still want to verify that they're working and not just I think that they work. So what do we get for page 1? So surprise, surprise, we are actually doing some backend work. Okay, so here are 50 events. And it's saying that the next page would be something like this. So that works. And page equals 1. Should be the same thing. We got 2, 3, 4, 5, and there is no next. So that's one bug. For example, the client should be smart enough to detect that when we requested page 5, the API told us that the next one is null. So the client should be intelligent enough to see this and decide never to even request page 6. Another thing that's interesting is that this is suspiciously round here on the final page, 50. I would love to do a sanity check on the events and verify that it is a multiple of 50. equal, I think it's this. Maybe it's that. Select count star from events. It's only 50. That's not right. It's very weird. If there's only 50 events, why would we even be able to paginate that far? It's all kinds of wonky. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But it says count 50. Oh, maybe 50 is the total? Let's see. So there's an event view set, and there's a query set, get query set, and right. I want to know why it's saying count as 50. Because I think other parts of the API don't behave this way. I think that, for example, if we had the threads list, this says 48. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I guess count is the total. If we click through, this one has 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Oh, okay. I guess I misunderstood the default behavior of REST framework. I thought the count would be the number of items in the current API response. Page number pagination. I think this is what we use. The count is something like this. The page size is set in the settings. So maybe we can peek at that. Rep polls, well, rather my site settings rep dash I page size. What? I don't. Maybe it's case sensitive. Nope. I guess the page size is 50 or 10. Maybe if I do 10. Oh, maybe it's cat. There you go. So it has been set to 10, and the count is the total. Well, there you go. The more you know. I guess that is correct behavior. Mystery solved. Okay, so let's go and focus. So threads behave the same way as events. Events behave fine, even though it's even though it's been customized. It is correctly paginating. So if we do page 3, it's currently paginating, but it still stands. The client is not behaving as intelligently as it could. So basically, if the API response next field is null, we should stop requesting more events. So let's try to do that. Let's see. How do we begin debugging that? So events list, it's the events list. We need to, what's this stanza tip? Hard disk upgrade. Do you want to upgrade your hard disk? The following how-to is a must. Linux doc, blah. Blah, yahoo.com. Good old days. So, well, okay, so I don't like this location thing. That's weird. It should not be in like just the global names like scope like this. This is very, very odd. Page number, I mean, I'll let it slide in the interest of time. Like, I don't know why exactly that. I don't know what the rationale was behind that. I'd like to give people the benefit of the doubt, and so I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But this location stuff I recently refactored, and I'm pretty sure it should not be in the global scope like this. Basically, there should be two ways of doing location. Basically, it either gets passed into get events as an argument, in which case it takes precedence over the second way. The second way of getting location is from the reducer, or rather from Redux, from the global store, and it'll get pulled and passed in via props. So the second way is basically if you get it from props, use it that way. But if you get it from as a function argument, that takes precedence over whatever's in props, because there's like some wonkiness with the Android emulator. And I did that recently, all that location stuff. This, I don't know why it's here, so I'm gonna get rid of that for starters. Here we do location, await, get location. Let's say that that is that. Get current position async. I should probably comment that. I'll get back to this. Get location async. Alright, so why do we have two of these? These seem to be very similar. Why do we have get location, low action, and underscore get location async? Why do we have two of them? The short answer is we have 3 developers working on this code base, and it's my job to enforce some semblance of like an architecture. It's my responsibility. So Well, let's fix this. This is for starters, location. And here we pull it from props, get location. But if we have it in props, why? So here, geolocation is not available on the Android emulator. Some of this stuff is hacky, just so that it works. We sort of like polyfill a location. If we're testing in the Android emulator, it's a significant enough part of our development process that I went ahead and polyfilled it. Like, I need to test some of this functionality in the Android emulator, and so that was more like a judgment call. Get location gets the location. There is location here. Alright, so we fixed the spelling mistake for one. Let me tell them that we did that. Low action. This is misspelled. Now I won't wail on the person. I feel like that is not productive. So even though they misspelled it several times, I think it's not necessarily to say misspelled. One time is enough. And hopefully they'll read more closely next time. Location. Okay, so I want to get rid of this. I don't like it in the global space. I'm just gonna get rid of it. Get location async. Let's say that let's say that gets location from the device API. Get location, let's say that it pulls it from props or attempts to pull it from props. If it doesn't exist in props, we're gonna go ahead and polyfill that. Now, I don't know why get location would invoke get events. If we're on Android, let's provide a location. If there is no location currently in the app, let's start fetching some stuff. Let's start loading data. And let's go ahead and load data from the API, from the device. Get location async. So this would probably be better named as... Oh. I gotta reset my settings. So hold on to that thought. I just need to change my Vim settings from what I use at my day job. Okay, great. All right, where were we? So we were in the middle of commenting that async stuff. And we realized that this thing reads location from device. GetLocation determines GPS location for user, determines current GPS location for user. If Android, provide hard-coded location. Hard-coded, I guess is not a word. Hard-coded. Hard-coding. AKA what you are doing right now. Hard-coded location. If Android blah, otherwise. So code smell, basically if you ever have an and in a comment describing a function, it's usually an indicator that that function is doing too much. And in this case, I feel like it might be doing too much and reads events. Well, it invokes reading the events in the photos. And triggers events read and triggers photos read. Does all that. But okay, so I'm basically in the middle of removing that location in the global. So location, 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 get events location. All right, if we don't have location, get the location and get the location. Or rather, get the events. If page number is greater than 1 and this dot state dot next URL. Load more. Get events. So I'm pretty sure that we should not be reading stuff from. We should not be passing location as an argument. The only time we should pass location as argument is right here. Only time we pass location as an argument to get events. That is the decision. Here it's doing some funky stuff with like, if the page number is greater than 1 and this dot state the next URL. I think it's much simpler to just keep track of the next URL. So the initial state for this component might be next URL is true. And every time we get an API response, it'll have an next URL until the next URL in the API response is null. And we stop then. So I'm probably going to simplify the page number stuff and just use the next URL. I think the page number was like the result of like an initial solution where you might just start keeping track of a variable that's a number. But since we know that the API behaves this way and provides this useful field, I think it's probably more robust to rely on that, to store that and rely on that. And yeah, so I'm basically going to be working towards that refactor. And then basically if events.length is greater than 0, this dot get event photos. I don't know why we're doing this. If anything, getting events should trigger a side effect where the act of getting events, and we know that events have photos, so we get the events, and then inside of that function it would be responsible for getting also the event photos. I don't see, like, even if you were thinking about trying to do this in parallel, even then, like, it's not a fan. I don't think this should be here. Shouldn't get events be responsible for get event photos? And basically that's a list for me to revisit that decision. And that's GetLocation. I kind of want to rename this to GetLocation from device, because that is more meaningful name, more descriptive name to do. Rename to GetLocation, or get device location. From device, maybe? Something like that. Get events, sticks location. Okay, so yeah. Hack to get Android to load event in the first render cycle. Most of the time you should not be doing this. Get events by location, page number. Oh, I see why. Right, so we've parameterized that. And so at the time it made sense to load in stuff. Page number. Events by location takes a page number. Okay. I still feel like we could probably get that as the final part of the next URL. I prefer, so the page number can be derived from the next URL. You see the next URL has the form something like this, and the page number is that. So I argue that the page number can be derived from the next URL. And if that's the case, then I would prefer storing one piece of data rather than two, because they can get out of sync. Store one piece of data, and given that piece of data, you can derive some other piece of data that you might need in the future, and you can do that. You should do that lazily, I would argue. I don't like the fact that page number was sort of like this global. Get events, location. Get events queries the API for 11 events. So getting events, it was previously stateless, and then this developer made it stateful. They're relying on a global variable. I would much rather make it stateless. Goodness, location. You know, I gotta stop saying you know, but would much rather actually even, if the API is saying page, maybe it should be page. And if I was really good with JS doc, I could document the arguments as well. So let me take a second and see how might I document your function. I think you do app param type variable name and a description. So app param, what is location? I think location is an object. As I think it gets destructured here. Location as return from device API. App param page, let's say, or rather no, the type, right? So it's a either or, string or number. You can just cast it. I think you can say it's number. Lowercase m. Number page. Page is the pagination page for API. As long as you try, right? I don't. What's the better way of saying that? Pagination page for API. It's a number. Say the page is passed in that way. Page is there, page is there. Get events, queries the API for relevant events, assumes location is already in Redux. Right. Assumes location is already in Redux. That's not always true. Most times, location is in Redux. Yeah. For Android emulator, sub override via arts. Yeah. Look. Except override via arguments. It's ambiguous via argument look. Okay, anyway. Location. Okay, so we have location, then we have pagination, and then whatever the response is, let's introspect it. Let's pull out stuff from it. Load more false. Events res. Results for each. Stop prompts. Increment page number. So that was previously happening globally. I wonder if we can just rely on XROM. Page number. And here, so get events sort of triggers get event photos, and that to me makes more sense. Get event photos gets the events for the photos. And photos. Loads photos. Oh, photo. Because there's only one photo per event right now. Loads photo for events. Let's say the events are in props. Let's say the photos are in state. This should move to Redux. Move photos to Redux to store. Let's say the events are the values of the events prop for every event. Let's query the API. This could be done in parallel. Could be done via map. Because I think if you do for each async, you might actually wait. You might actually block. Might as well do that in parallel. Photos response dot results dot length is greater than 0. Right. New photo. Is that photo? Set the state, previous state. I mean, this should move to store. Should not be storing that in local state. And then we set fetching false. That is fine. I have been meaning to consolidate that sort of stuff, but like I said, there's just never enough time, so eventually a pattern will arise. We have been seeing another pattern, some other component. Sign user out. Sync. Why is assigning the user out here? Sign user out. This is not even used. Under footer. This we use, but I have been meaning to move to function outside component. Ideally a stateless component. Render section list item. And finally render. Dashboard event. Image placeholder. Okay. So I'm not a fan of the page no thing. Here it's 1. Here we refer to it. I think it's better if, like, if there's a this.state, then next year I'll do that. And get events, so we parameterize get events. Well, we parameterize the page in get events. So before we call get events, we need to pass in the page. We're not doing that. Where are we calling get events? Only time we pass location is an argument to get events. Well, here, for example, if there is no location and this stuff, like we're on Android, there is no location, we haven't put it in the store. Okay? If we haven't put it in the store, I can assume, it's gonna assume that this is the first time we are getting events. And that's okay. And then here, get events. So we're not going to pass in events there, or rather location here, but we are going to pass in the page number. And if there is no location, I think here it's also safe to assume that it's the first time that we're doing it. Load more is true. Don't know what load more is, but I think fetching should be true. Get events here. So if there's this next URL, we can pass in null here, but we can extract page from next URL. And this I'm going to move. I'm going to prefer extracting next URL from state. This is component state, and I think that's fine for this part of the project. Let's say there's a next URL, and if there is a next URL, we can derive page from next URL, and we know that page is, we could be fancy and use a regular expression. I would like a regular expression that grabs the final part of a string, and as long as they're numbers, right? So, and let's assume that the API returns the page number as the final query param. No, it would be more robust to use some sort of like query string parser on the URL and get the page part that way. There's this, I know that there's this QS thing. It's fireworks outside. There's query string in Node, and I'm pretty sure there is a npm package that just packages this query string, and it's just a utility that robustly, it's such a common operation, right? Just reads out query strings from URLs, and then you can just grab that part, right? So if you parse this, you can just say page, give me the page part, and it's just much more robust. Like if the API, I think this would future proof grabbing the page part from next URLs. I wonder if I don't already have this. That's much more robust than regular expression. You blew it. Anyway, QS. Do we have anything like that? No. I'll add it. It's too short. QS. npm install save QS. And let's say that I use it from QS. And then qs.parse URL. Anything, because I would like to just pass in the whole URL. I don't want to even parse. Like if I'm using a dependent, if I'm adding a dependency to the project, I would really love to just pass in the whole URL. Like I don't even want to split on anything. URL HTTP qs.parse URL. Let's try that. Let's say init for that, by the way, but let's say page is equal to qs.parse next URL. And hopefully if we've gotten this far, we've already issued one HTTP request and we've updated the state to contain the next URL. And I would really love to pull out the page part, not page. Let's see. Parse, is that? So log parsed is parsed. And let's say, so I'm not sure, but maybe it would, the way to access it would be something like that. And this is as far as I can go without starting to call log debug. So, okay. Weird. Don't know why it does that, but that's a bug. In any case, let's say that we have correctly called it the second time, we would get something like this. So, and then page would be something like that. So that looks right. It's much more robust than a regular expression. So pretty happy about that. Get events is not parse Parsed. Okay. Okay, so pretty happy with that. That's pretty robust, if you ask me. And then this I don't like. So if events.length is greater than 0, we get event photos. I know for a fact that get events calls this at the end of it or stuff. And it is not even within a condition. It's like if you reach the end of the function, you get the events, you get the photos. So my gut is telling me that this is not required. No need for that. Okay. The other thing I'm trying to get to the bottom of is why in the world is get events being called over and over again? And I'm not sure if it's get events, but I think it's get events, get location. Let's log. Location. Page. It's not as robust as I would expect. So this is supposed to be one key, but oh, maybe you are expected to clip on that. Okay, let me nip that in the bud. So parse. So const. I think we can do that. Query string. String is equal to next URL dot split on this character. And then you can do a query string, pass that in. Okay. Yeah, so I guess it was too much to ask for that it would do that. Parse is an object like that? What? Okay, I guess this destruction didn't work. So parsed is an empty object. Maybe that's just too fancy for me. I'm too lazy to look it up. I know it's the second part. Much better. Lat long page. Lat long page. Alright, so that works. And now I still want to figure out why is it a couple of things. Why is it even requesting the next page if you haven't even scrolled? Just realized something. I think one of the developers was saying that it might already have infinite scroll. No. Yeah, it's not in there. They did comment on why or how to maybe achieve the effect. So, okay, great. Well, at least it stops at 5. It doesn't go to 6, so at least there's that. But why is it triggering when I haven't scrolled? It should trigger when I reach the bottom. Get events, blah. One, two, three. If only I could get a trace. Component will mount GetLocation. I still don't know when to use component will mount. Let's ask. When is it a good idea to use component will mount? Most times I use component did mount. 1, 2. Alright. So, photos. Fetching is true. Error message. Load more. Long. XRL. And then maybe let's get rid of load more. Better load more. It's true. Maybe I can get rid of load more. Basically say if there is an XURL, let's show spinner. Does that work? Okay, so but at least we don't have this state field, which I didn't really understand. Can't wait till I simplify this. No data found. Like now. Right. Okay. That goes a long way. It's just a niche, you know? That you get sometimes an urge to delete code. I'll tell you what, I don't like the fact that colors that brand. Yeah. I like when the spinner is the brand color. Render footer. I mean, we can promote this all the way. This is section here. I think you can do it like this. If not, we'll find out soon enough. Next URL is equal to, have we pulled out next URL? State? Yeah, that might work. Yeah, that's the footer. Okay, that works. But we still haven't figured out why it's auto-loading some stuff. So, get events. Where is it being called? Get events. So, it's called here, 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 inside of GetLocation. What is GetLocation called? Here, component will mount GetLocation. On end reached, GetLocation. See, that makes no sense to me. We should get the location once, not every time you reach the end. This should be get events. On end reached. Undefined is not an object. Coordinates at latitude. Let's expand this and put a log. Let's just make sure that we are calling this from on and reached, because this could be, it might be too sensitive. It's my guess. Yeah, it is too sensitive. It's running. Okay, so we've gotten an answer for our question. When is it a good idea to use component will mount? Most times I use component did mount. I found that question too difficult to answer, which is why I switched to use effect. React hooks for the win, +1, Joppo. So to me, component will mount fires before the render, but rare you will need this. Often it's better to use the constructor. But with React hooks now, we have left these lifecycle hooks behind. Okay. I mean, is it fair to say most times you will use pointed mount and not component will mount? I think it is fair. Let's ask the studio audience. Nope. Maybe later. On end reached. Render section list item. On end reached actual output 1. Sections. Key extractor. List for a component. So maybe this is too low. I think the default is 0.5. Maybe on end reach is like when it renders, like when it finishes rendering that stuff. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's when it renders the footer. It goes all wonky. Maybe you should just leave that alone. Nope. Maybe... What is the difference between render item and sections? Let's try deleting them one by one. Sections. Okay, definitely need sections, looks like. What about render item? No, definitely need that. Key extractor. Maybe key extractor. I find it a little hard to believe that it just fires like that. And that's for the warning. Okay. Threshold 5, that's fine. That's fine. Even that's probably fine. The other way I was sort of approaching this is like if we're still fetching, we shouldn't fetch again. Most times you will use component did mount instead of component will mount. Component will mount, it's just weird. Get location. Get location. Getting the locations gets the events. Getting the events gets the photos. So on and so forth. Render section, list item, render. That begs the question, if you call get location, who calls get location async? Location seems to be called honestly, it feels like GetLocation is really component did mount. And actually, let's leave it like this, because this little component did mount, you can't really make it async in my experience, but this we could make it async, and we would have the ability to do this, which is something I was meaning to do, so I might as well demonstrate. So we could say something like, look, is equal to the results of awaiting this, and then loc is available. There is no location. That's no location. I feel like maybe there was this sort of thing where if you call get events, it won't be available. But I'm hazy on the details. But yeah, so okay. Component did mount. Component mounts, and then we get the location, and then we can get the events based off the location. On end reached. I would love to know why that happens. This is a section list. React Native on end reached. Whoop, too soon. Flat list calls on end reach when it's loaded. Debugs. I think I have debounce. I already have this as a utility. Delay promise, chunk, have sign distance, yada yada. We don't have debounce. Wash, debounce. Yada, debounce. I feel like I did this before. Timeout. I'm not sure if it'll work. Why is React Native not fixing these simple basic? So whiny. Anyway, function debounce, function late, immediate. Not sure if this will work, but let's see. I've not tried it in React Native. So how do they do it? Just thought load more on end reached. Couple things. Next URL. This will actually let it continue. And I think you can debounce this way. This is the function. There's some arguments. I think you can do this, right? Because this whole thing here is really a function definition, and then you can just do that. And that gets wrapped right there. So let's see how that works. Nah. Nope. Just seems to keep running. Just constantly running. Let's see, though I'm a fan of debounce, this solution does not work. The list will simply invoke the callback after the debounce interval. Need an on-end reached that only runs when user reaches the end of the list. That's what we need. Sorry. This is momentum stuff. Refreshing state. Oh, full refresh. I wonder. I'm hazy on the details, but I remember working on this like a week ago, and I came up with some other type of solution. I think we have. So I'll just leave the debounce in there because I think we're going to use it eventually, but I think we have infinite scroll inside of the chat. How the heck is that implemented? Page number equals 1. Error flash. Thread. Error message. User ID. Next URL. Let's say that isn't it. Wanted amount. Get thread list. Set state is loading true. Is loading true. So right now I'm just trying to make both these, because I know it works on the chat screen. So I'm just gonna make this one consistent. Okay. We have is loading true, component did mount, get location. It's true right here. Component did mount is loading true. It's not async. So let's see, is loading true. I could even pull it out. Maybe closer to the other one. Alright, so we set loading true, this get thread list, component did update. So here, if there's an X URL, do some stuff. Load more is true. Disperse store threads. I mean, that should always be defined. Increments the page number. Render footer. I don't know why they do this, like bind this. Don't think that's necessary. It's already a fat arrow function, so it's not needed. State is loading. Is loading. Right. So flat list versus section list. Do render item. What's that render section list item? Data. You could probably refactor this. This is pretty large, so you could probably refactor it, render item. Yeah, let's refactor that. Render footer, render item. Let's pass this thread. Let's pass the thread, yes. This footer on end reached. Let's do a sanity check here, same way. On end reached. Don't know what arguments it takes. Get thread list. No args, thankfully. Now, why doesn't this guy loop endlessly? I mean, it'll do it twice at the end, but at least it doesn't continue to do it. We have data, extra data, key extractor, on end reached threshold, render item. Let's try to make them similar. On end reached threshold, sections, key extractor, this footer component, data and extra data. It's the render footer. You have a large list that is slow to update. Make sure your render item function renders components that follow your components. Like sure. Wow. This PK stuff was from like a really the first versions of the API. It has since been sort of phased out in favor of ID. This needs to be removed. To do update to ID. Same. Row PK. APKs, sorting. Does not need to happen. Don't need that. Dashboard event. This is footer. Okay. Yeah, it just behaves very differently on unreached let list. Maybe how many times are you rendering? Render, render, render. Render, render. So render chat. Render events. Render chat. Render events. Text string associated render kind of text component. Oh yeah, you can't comment like that. Can't comment like that. update PK to that. Same deal. Update PK to that. Okay, hopefully it doesn't crash. So many renders. Why is it rendering so much? Can't even see the on-end reach. Look at those renders. So many renders. It's a weird question though. A better question is, I want to accomplish X. How do I go about that? Always say the same shit. Component will mount is semi-deprecated, partially because it won't work well in future versions of React, and partially because it's really hard to justify existence at this way. Cool. Nice. Good to know. Good to know. The skill within... Armed with this knowledge, there was a time when it was occasionally needed for ES6 classes. Class support was added. Now the old way of defining classes is gone and constructor fills that role. Now we all use classes, so... So many renders. You know what? I'm gonna leave that as a comment. Misspelled. Component will mount. Please never use component will mount in modern React. We use class constructors for that. Permission to access location was denied. Okay, so it probably renders for every API response. Every time you get an API response, we store it instead of like batch storing it or anything like that. Event photos, get event photos. Move photos to store, render section list, item, JPK. ID, rows.map. Oh, that's because we used to have rows. That should be simplified. Update PK to ID. To do remove row construct. This was for a different UI. It shouldn't be sorted by ID. If anything, they should be sorted by created at, or the event date or something like that. This is not. To do. Actually preserve API order. The API needs to be more intelligent. So flat list, section list. Which one's the optimized one? Section list is the performant one. How about flat list? Performant. We don't need sections. Why can't I use a flat list? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I wonder. You have data and extra data. I totally don't expect this to work, by the way. It's not sections, is it? So we had render item on unreached threshold, key extractor, list footer component, and then we have data and extra data here. And here we have sections. So it feels like this should be data. Here we have threads, which is something. I guess here we could have events. No, we don't really need to sort them. We don't need to put them into this my data thing. Oh man, I'm gonna go all out and just like really throwing out all the trash right now. Events. And then key extractor. I guess we have event. Event ID. String. We have render item, render section listing. item receives a thread. Render item here. We receive an event. And we have photos in state, dispatch, navigation. These are the style row. We're not really doing rows. I guess it's a view. Key equals event.id. Style row. I don't really care about that. Dashboard event. Navigation, navigate. Event equals event. Location, user. I almost feel like I could have just passed in dashboard event. Just this thing. RE result 2. No, it's not an object. RE result 2. Render item. Event. Event is event. Events is an object with index 0, item, separators. We can probably destructure that and get an index and an item. Okay. Events, whoops. Still looping though. Okay. So it's rendering a lot, right? But that's not exactly the end of the world. What is the end of the world is it fetches. It's not supposed to. It does that. Now we're using a flat list. I mean, put in some effort to do that. It doesn't seem like I'm the only one that experiences this. List view with flat list. List view is not recommended. Use one of the new components such as flat list or section list. I'm using flat list. I used to need sections, but I don't anymore. So now I'm using flat list. Data, render item. I have that data, render item. I can also make them more uniform. Then there's extra data, but I don't think we're using that. More complex multi-select, on-press item, extra data. State that select the changes without saying this prop flat list would not know it needs to be rendering it. Okay, so that's why we passed in extra data. This dot state changes. So Okay. Seems like a good idea. By binding on press item handler, the props will remain equal and prevent wasteful renders unless the actual ID selected or title props change, even if the components re-rendered. Even if the components rendered in my list item did not have such optimizations. This is a pure component, and with that list we have data, extra data, key extractor, and render item. Data, extra data, key extractor, and render item. Key extractor, just like key extractor. Item index, item.id. Gosh, it's so well behaved. Key extractor is something like that. Item and index. Item ID, a render item. Function like that calls out to a pure component ID. This item selected. Title. So this convenience wrapper around virtualize this and thus inherits its props as well as running. The next message will be listed here, along with the following caveats. Internal state is not preserved. When content scrolls out of the render window, make sure all your data is captured in the item data or stores like Flux, Redux, Relay. Things will not re-render if props remain shallow, equal. Make sure that everything your render item function depends on is passed as a prop. It's not equal to updates, otherwise the UI may not update on changes. This includes the data prop or parent component state. In order to constrain memory, it enables fulfilling content rendered asynchronously off screen. This means it's possible to scroll faster than the fill rate and momentarily see blank content. This is a trade-off that can be adjusted to the needs of each application. We're working on improving it behind the scenes. By default, the list looks for a key prop on each item and uses that for the React key. Alternatively, provide a custom key extractor prop. maybe we should go all the way and make it a pure component. Maybe I should punt on this. I have changed this significantly. What if I change render item to just be like a view? Okay, this makes sense. But not till 5. Like, I was on board until he kept going until 5. Here, I would really want it to just load in the first page. It's inside a scroll view. Doesn't seem right. Here we have a safe area view and an error flash. Not list. C, D, E, F, G, H, I, H, A, K. Area view. This might be it. Should not be having that inside of it. Thing should not have this inside of a view either, like this. This whole thing is sort of kind of botched. Container. If you're loading, do a view, do a spinner, otherwise do a safe area view. How about that? If is loading, do a view. Text strings must be rendered within text. 44. Must be related to something we did. Great. Mystery solved. Just wonky layout stuff. Oh, that makes me so happy. Okay. This is my happy voice. Error message and I think maybe you can do that. Text strings must be rendered within the text component. I don't know if I believe that error. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Well, folks, I feel very happy. It's always good to feel happy, but it's always good to feel happy. Can't argue with that. Let's see if we can get, we can restore a lot of the functionality we had. Very nice. Okay. Let's put this in a PR. I'm gonna choose not to abbreviate this, so you could abbreviate this to just be get events and no invocation, but because I feel like I'm going to be suspicious of this implementation, I'm going to be basically adding this log in here in the future. I just see myself doing that. I'm going to choose to keep it as the expanded version. Get events. See, get events is sort of depending on the way you invoke it. Get events. So. Debounce. I'm gonna copy that again. I think I made this into like a modern syntax once upon a time. Be nice if you could search, I guess. Right, delete this. A lot of these errors. Just use gist as like a scratch pad sometimes. But I should stop doing that. I should really. There's some gems in here, and I don't want to clutter them with garbage. So, like right now, I'm pretty sure I made a gist one time, once upon a time, but it's not finding it. Migrate error. A lot of these secret ones, especially. Like if I made it secret, then no point. In any case, let's say debounce ES6. I think that's ES6. Well, maybe I'll leave that out of the PR because it really is outside of the scope, but I do want to add it eventually. Okay. So this seems to be. Let's see what it looks like on the API side. Threads. One, two, three, four. It seems to hit it once. Hits that twice. Oh, it's overfetching, huh? 4. It's not good. 5. So I would like to see these show up only once. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here, fetched it twice. Shouldn't do that. I think we could probably fix that. Get thread list. There has to be like an is fetching sort of state. Is loading false? Load more false. I feel like I should get rid of load more. Load more true. Load more. Load more. I don't use that. Is loading, however, it's false, and then we set it to true, and we're getting the threads, right? And after we get a response, we are no longer loading, right? And then that's in state. And if we're loading the page, the screen, we're sort of... Okay, so it's ambiguous, that's the thing. So loading screen, or rather the first load, and then there's subsequent loads. And it would not be appropriate to is loading. So I think I want like loading screen, or could make it more generic. What if you just have an is loading for everything? And just rely on the footer. Is loading is false. Try it. ASP not is loading. If you're not loading, and there is an X URL, if you're not currently loading, then load. I think that's what the solution was. And then we have this, which is based, I'm pointing at the spinner. This lovely thing where we are just relying on this footer spinner. Get thread list on unreached. What did we have before? So previously we were showing a spinner until we had some stuff. So initially it's not loading. Then it loads some stuff. One. Two. Very nice. And we're just relying on this one thing. What was that? It's a subtle bug, but it's fine. Being the penultimate one, I think. I like that a lot. I like this implementation a lot. I'm very attached to it. But that page number is still global. It's weird. Don't like that. do some of this QS stuff. Right. React Native progress. So blah 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 blah. QS. Do something like this. Page to fetch. So query string, split the URL, page to fetch is the page component of that, and then, right? Threads list. Threads list. Threads list. Page number. Any other pages? Page number. Yeah, much happier with this. Like, just relying on the next URL is much better, I think. Oh, but it doesn't happen the first one. It's a little wonky, but I think pretty happy with it. It's pretty solid, I think. Set things up so that it works. Alright, so that's chats. I kind of just want to propagate that same sort of approach to this. That way we don't have this sort of global page number nonsense. So it is loading. We are not loading. And then we have some dummy thing. Error message, user ID is loading next URL. Oh, that was probably alphabetical order, but whatever. Yeah, there's load more stuff? No, okay, good. So, what was the logic again? Basically, So get events. Get events can pull the page to fetch from state. Yeah. Can always pull it from state. Location lock chords. Right. Okay. Oh boy. Getting close on that original goal of 2 a.m. And I think we need to implement the load more stuff, right? So if we're already fetching, we shouldn't keep fetching. We shouldn't fetch again. It's like one of the problems with the flat list, it seems. So if we're loading, and then we can take that opportunity to simplify, right? So if we are loading, it doesn't matter. We don't really use that. So let's not care about loading. Right here, and instead rely on the loader in the list. Events, location, error message, next URL, photos, error message, next URL, photos, errors. Okay. Right, we do want to guard. It's something we're not doing up there. So get event photos, get events. We want to do something like we could do something like, if we're loading, we just exit immediately. That would be one way to do it. So if is loading, we just exit immediately. That'll be one way to do it. In the spirit of keeping it close to the other implementation though, if we're not loading and there's a next URL, let's go ahead and do some stuff. So after the response, if we're not loading, load some stuff. When do we ever set is loading to true? This seems to work. It's weird. suspicious. So it turns out we were never even using that how I thought. So, but let's follow through because I think it is a good like insurance to have, and I've been noticing it not work. So we're not loading, and then get thread list. We're not loading. One of the first things you should do is set it to load. And then issue the request. And when that stuff is done, we'll say that we're done. We're done loading. And this would sort of block any sort of over querying, overzealous querying. And if we did the same thing over here, one of the first things you want to do is set it to we're loading, and then let's load some stuff, and then let's pull out next URL. Let's set loading to false. Well, actually, I'm not too sure about that because we're still sort of loading in the pictures. And you shouldn't, right? Yeah, we shouldn't really load in more stuff until we're done with this set of stuff. There's no point. Events res results for each. Discharge store event. So let's store the events and then get event photos. So it starts off at false, we set to true. We refer to it. That makes sense. Get event photos. False. The threshold is pretty high. So let's raise that threshold. And what else? Oh, I don't like this events lane. I don't like it, and ideally that'll never be something that happens. Okay, great. Pretty happy with this. Okay. Right, so we added QS. We got rid of this global. We reworked the state fields on the chat component and chat listing. We reworked the logic surrounding fetching threads on chat. We moved the render item component into a function on the chat component. We factored out a footer helper component. Outside of the chat, neighborhood chat. We replaced the section list with a flat list. The section list was from an older sort of UI for the project, and now we're just using a flat list. We are using QS for parsing query strings. Also on the events list, we removed some global variables from the events list. We reworked the state. We removed component will mount. That's no longer something that we should be using in React. Instead, in modern React, we should be using class constructors. We left it to do here. I'm kind of tired, so I'm not going to go and comment or add comments on all the functions, even though I really should. Do that next time. So GetLocation determines the current GPS location for the user. If Android provides hard-coded location, we should probably change that to be plural. And triggers events read and triggers photo read. So I'm gonna reword that. Here, I think I simplified the invocations to get events. Here we provided some JS doc for get events. Here we simplified the footer drastically. We renamed render section list item to render item because now we're using flat list. We fixed the bug where on and reach kept on getting triggered, and it was due to the way the screen was sort of laid out, the component was laid out. Here's a note, here's a footer that we added and a note to update the PKs, event PKs to IDs. Another note to update, so this component still needs to be updated. This is just a temporary change to get the tunnel working. Won't be adding that. Rename the parameter to page. Same. So there was something here about and provides hard-coded location. So GetLocation. This is how I like to comment my functions. And one of the issues I had here is that it no longer really triggers photos read. That's something that happens like as a cascade. So get events triggers a photo read. And I still feel like this is a code smell. It's almost as if whoever called GetLocation should probably call GetEvents, but I'm just gonna let that slide. Fix infinite scroll on chat and events. Add QS for parsing query strings. Broadly speaking, so remove global vars. Don't like that. Rely on is loading and next URL to determine whether to fetch new data. That's it. I changed events list to use flat list. Change events to use flat list. And just fix many bugs surrounding that. What else can I tell this person? So more, right? Simplify this logic. Please review my changes. Void global ours whenever possible. I derive page node from X URL. It's better to store one var and derive data from one var than two vars that can get out of sync. Oh boy, what else? Get location, async. Move to flat list as new designs don't need sections. Section headers, really. Finish your review, just comment. They're all outdated. Okay. And I like to squash Okay. And that clocks in at about 2 hours and change. I think I started at 10:45. You know, you never know how, you don't always have a good idea of how long something was going to take. I really thought that I was going to be able to review all of these PRs actually, but I'm pretty happy with the solutions I sort of came up with for this stuff. This is parts of the code base that sorely needed attention from me, and I finally had a chance to do it on this lovely Friday night. Tempted to go till 4. It's not like I have anything to do tomorrow, just more work. But if I do that, I would want to take a break. At the very least, maybe get a coffee. Or I could just end the session there. The next thing I need to address is event list fix-up. So we merged that. And it's raw. Master, get home. And that. I wonder if it'll work on the latest master, because we had some code here that would load in images, but maybe there was a regression. Oh, that's definitely a regression. It used to load just fine. Undefined is not an object. The events list, something happened. Probably on some sort of on press. usually. So render item in chat. A couple of things. It should render an image dashboard of that. And photos. Well, okay, so I know that I need to put the photos in the Redux. What I'm wondering, however, is was this working before? Yeah, we sort of were keeping it locally. And we had an end button. And what do we have now? I don't even know what an end button is. Event ID. Undefined is not an object value. Event ID. I mean, events should definitely have an ID as far as I can tell. Okay, let's... Oops. Let us debug this properly. So, these are not... Oh. That doesn't work. Alright, regressions. New thread button. Is that right? Okay, so... Out of the frying pan, into the fire. Navigation. Okay. Okay. .host. So we seem to be reaching the event itself. Not .host. Event ID, APK. What happens if you print out event dashboard event? It's only one event. Okay, many events. There's no PK. So ID. I guess this was timely. Okay. And then there's already a result to regular expression result. That's weird. I think Nate wrote this. So geolocation string like blah. Jeez. Regex results if you must. Can't think of a better one. Better name right now. Regex result 2 and 1. Not long A, long B. ID. I think we're fine. Okay, removed all PKs from the file. Oh, great. Very nice. Okay. Now, if I wanted to be thorough, I would spin this up in the iOS emulator and give that a whirl. So let's be thorough. I'm just gonna make that change when I'm master. I'm not gonna bother with the... I'm not gonna bother with the, like, a feature branch or anything. One, two, three, four, five. One, two, three. Don't know why it goes for that, but four, five, don't seem to be pictures down here. My guess is that the URL is fixed, but the API that we're using, Lorem Pixel, has different image responses. Otherwise, I would expect the same sort of event photo to show up. Okay. Alright. That satisfies me, and ended up filling up the hour. Almost 3 a.m. Alright. Pretty happy with where we're at. 2 people. Let's see. My guess is that all of these other ones are gonna have conflicts, but pretty happy. I've internalized the solution. Pretty happy. I get it. I think it's the simplest thing. No globals. no global variables, and yeah, I'm gonna call it there. Thanks for watching. This was live stream, but YouTube will probably, hopefully, save it and other people can refer to it. I'm pretty excited for this one. This is pretty good session. Some real life shit. And yeah, thanks a lot. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend, guys. Everybody, have a great weekend. Held for review. Dragon versus Flutter. Which one should we choose? Let's see. I've heard good things about Flutter, especially when using TensorFlow. This is very anecdotal, but I only have experience with React Native. And at the end of the day, like, technology is cool, but right now I'm more concerned with getting results and like building a real business. So, but yeah, thanks for the question. See ya.